So we continue learning about some neat mission work that we have the honor of supporting. And as we talk about the mission work that is done tonight in the city of Miami, we're going to be thinking about neighborhoods because they have ministry centers in 2 neighborhoods in Miami. We're going to be thinking about neighbors and neighborhoods. So just quick, when someone might ask, what does it mean to be a neighbor? What would you say? What does it mean to be a neighbor? Shout it out.
Caring.
Caring, yep. Caring about that person. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say lending a cup of sugar. Right? What else? What does it mean to be a neighbor? A real neighbor.
Helping out whenever you can.
Helping out whenever you can, yeah.
Not necessarily next door.
Doesn't have to be next door. Doesn't have to be close by.
Could be someone we don't even know personally,
Yep.
but there's a need or something that arises that maybe we can touch them with.
Yep. We're going to be reading a story about a story Jesus told about what it means to be a neighbor, and the people in that story didn't know each other until right that moment. They were ready to be a neighbor. Yeah, all those things. And the cup of sugar just jumps into my mind because it represents to me so much of being a neighbor, because you know there's someone you can rely on, and if you need something, even if it's a silly little thing, you can go over there and they're ready to help. They care about you. They're not inconvenienced. They say, oh sure, yeah, happy to give that to you. They're all different levels of being a neighbor. So if there was someone who was in need that you heard about in your neighborhood, what would you want to do? You would want to figure out, well gosh, what's going on? What might they need? What could I do about it? Or maybe I can get the rest of the folks in the neighborhood. Maybe we can get together and chip in. You know, if there's a death or an injury, then you know what do neighbors do? Or if there's a new baby, what's one main thing neighbors do when something like that happens? Casseroles. That's right. They make a meal train because that shows love and it meets real needs. So sometimes being a neighbor means working with lots of other neighbors to help one who needs something. If you learn there's somebody in your neighborhood that is really hurting or is in great need, then good neighbors join together and chip in. And like we said a minute ago, it might not necessarily be the person that lives right next to you or even on your street, because these days with technology, our world has opened up and expanded. So now our kind of neighbors, in quotes, they might, yes, be on our street, but they might be across town, and they might be people who used to live next door, but then they moved to another state. But, you know, once you're somebody's neighbor, you stay their neighbor even if they move across the country, you know? Like, they're still your neighbor and you can still stay in touch. And that means our neighborhoods have gotten bigger too. And some of our neighborhoods might reach out over in this community or this state or this family here and here. And for better and for worse, we can hear news from all over the world, and certainly all over the county, all over the city. Often we can be kind of overwhelmed with bad news, so we need to be aware of kind of how much bad news we're letting into our brains. But it is helpful when we hear that there's people in need or people who are suffering, and we realize we don't need to be limited by a physical geographic neighborhood. Well, maybe there's something that we can do to help people who are in another state or another country or ones we haven't even met yet. So, it begs the question, if there is suffering or mistreatment or just wrongness going on in the neighborhood of our town, county, state, world, then what should we do about it? So let's read some verses tonight. This is a story from Luke chapter 10. I'm going to read. And Jesus, it'll be a very familiar story. It's a Good Samaritan. And this is a story that Jesus tells in answer of someone's question. Someone asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" This is Luke 10, 30 to 37. In reply to that question, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite who worked in the temple, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, took him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper. 'Look after him,' he said, 'and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.' So which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Then go and do likewise." So this parable of the Good Samaritan has so many lessons to think about. And we'll just talk about kind of one level tonight as it relates to our mission work. But what does this story teach us about what it means to be a neighbor? If this is the answer Jesus gave when someone said, "Who is my neighbor?" This is what Jesus said. So, what does this story teach us about what it means to be a neighbor? It can be physical or figurative or specific or in general.
Stuart, I think sometimes we as human beings will be judgmental of others, and why were you in the shape you're in? Why did you find yourself here? This individual didn't question any of that apparently. But right through all of that, it saw someone who was in dire straits and needed some help, and was not concerned about where you came from, what your situation is. I'm not judging you. Why'd you end up here? I know I need to help you, and that's what I did.
Yeah, acted immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah, that's a
And
great
not
point.
only then, but said, if he has a need in the future, next time I buy here, I'll pay for that.
Yeah,
Not just that moment, but other needs he might have.
yeah, like he's in it for the long term,
Yeah.
for the long haul. Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. It's remarkable. Jesus' understanding of the simple word neighbor is very big and very deep. Yeah, right.
The character study goes very, very deep because just the idea of the Samaritan, they were absolutely despised
Yeah.
because when the Jews had been taken out and taken to slavery, some left behind, other people came in, they mixed races. So when the Jewish people did come back, they found people there who are a little bit Jew, part not. And so they actually despised them. In fact, when they traveled, they would go around Samaria.
Right,
Because they didn't want to associate with them.
right.
But yet in Jesus' story, the Hebrew is
Yeah.
one of these people that nobody else would even talk to.
That's right. Yeah, back then, Jews would have thought there are no Samaritans that are good. So just the idea of there might be one, they would have found hard to believe. So not only did, like we said, these two men didn't know each other before this moment, but they were from such different backgrounds, different cultures that did not get along, that as far as the cultures went, didn't respect each other, didn't like each other. So there's no real reason for the man to have done this.
Is the person holding the sign when we stop at a red light, is he our neighbor?
Whoa, good question. Yeah, and then,
He passed me some money to give to this woman last week, didn't he?
Yeah,
That was holding a sign.
yeah,
well, I keep a certain amount of money aside for that, because there are people willing to like them out there, people that are in distress and need it. And the Lord has blessed us, so I do that.
yeah, good. And what's the natural, I think we can all be honest and confess that when we see folks who are doing that, we have some natural, maybe even a little too fast suspicion and wariness of, well, now, have you been making the best choices in life? But this Samaritan did not do that. The man might not have even been in a condition to speak, even if he was, it didn't matter. Like Wayne said, the Samaritan saw someone who, obviously in their state, they needed some help. And the Samaritan didn't know how the guy got in that state, but it didn't really matter. As, you know, as like the question Bill asked, if a person is in that state, that position in their life, obviously they're in great need. Whatever had gone on before. In that moment, they're in need. And geographically, they are our neighbors far more than the guy and the Samaritan. I mean, they would have been from different regions and just happened to be on the same road. Certainly not like, geographically in the same community, like, kind of like our county or something. Yeah. And then, just the fact that this Samaritan, and again, when the original audience would have heard that, they would have gone, oh, Samaritan, ugh, icky people, gross people. When the Samaritan stopped, remember, he stopped on this road that some guy had just gotten beat up and robbed. So he stopped, he paused his journey, and he might have put himself at risk, went out of his way to find an inn, went out of his way to pay some of his money for this person he had never met. And the safety issue shouldn't be overlooked, because not only was this guy jumped, mugged, robbed, but back then, this road to Jericho was a notorious, dangerous road. Very highly trafficked route between the two cities, Jerusalem and Jericho. A lot of goods were transported, a lot of caravans, a lot of travelers. You would really want to be in a group just for safety, and the poor guy at the beginning was not. And whenever there's like a highly trafficked, goods being shuttled kind of route, there's going to be robbers then and now. So people being robbed was a common occurrence on the Jericho road. It would not have been much of a surprise to see somebody on the side of the road who just got robbed. Perhaps the priest and the Levite had seen somebody in that condition the day before, and the last time they went, and the last time, and they just thought, there's another guy, same old, same story. Yeah, stopping to help someone would have also put you at risk, given the dangers, and obviously there were robbers in the area. And when we translate that today, that's not just a 2,000 years ago situation. Every town has roads or neighborhoods or areas that you would not want to find yourself stuck in, that you would not want to be caught alone in that area. Any mid-sized town, even small towns, can have a street maybe, or a neighborhood that you don't want to get stuck in, right? You don't want your car to break down if you happen to be driving through. If you take a wrong turn and you're driving through and you think, uh-oh, I do not want anything, I don't want to get caught here at night. Has anybody ever taken a wrong turn and ended up in a neighborhood that they thought, oh no, this is not good, yeah?
This sounds ridiculous, and so believe me, I will not tell you a story that didn't have basis. I did just that as a young man. Johnny and I were double dating girls from Wilmington. I was driving in my dad's car, and I turned just to make a turn. Wound up in an area of town that I knew better to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, there was a bang, and the back window of the car shattered.
Yikes.
In those days, the windows were made with a piece of plastic in between the two panes. So when the outer pane was hit, the inner pane just splattered, sent glass all over the car. And of course, I got out of there, went by the police department, told them what happened. Now, the other side of the story. Next morning, I got to explain to my dad why the window's gone. And told him what I done. I pulled through that section knowing not better, but, you know, sometimes you do things just out of impulse.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Dad said, look, you were responsible, you got it shot out, you fix it.
Yeah.
So I go to a junkyard, I find a model car about the same age. Got the back window out, without too much trouble. But I was tired and wanted something to drink, so I went to a service station close by my house. Got a drink and sat there and took the window out, put this new window in, and the thing just would not fit right. There are arms that crisscross that push the window up and down, and I could not get it right. Here comes Don, riding a bicycle. He's a little bit short of load. He's not quite put together right, but he's a good guy. What you doing? I said, Don, I've got to put a windows on. What happened to your window? I shot out. Oh, no, you find that not. I said, Don, I'm trying to get it back in, but it won't fit. And he said, why don't you take the door panel off the other door and see how it works? I said, Don, go on, leave me alone. I took the panel off, saw how the arms worked, put it back together. I never told him that I took his advice for that. But I also never went back in that neighborhood again.
Sure, sure. And once you take, even if it's a wrong turn, or if you're going to a destination and you go through a neighborhood where you feel really unsafe, you kind of learn, I'm not gonna go that way again. I'm gonna go around, or I'm gonna pay more attention. I think we've all been there, maybe late at night, maybe going to some place in the city, and you find yourself, you look around, you think, uh-oh, I do not want to get a flat tire right now. That would be really, really bad. But here's the thing. Real people live in those neighborhoods every day. Real kids grow up in those neighborhoods. When they drive home from work, they have to pull over when they're in those neighborhoods because that's where they live. That's where their home is. Young and old, children and families, they can't just pick up and move. They don't have the means to just move to somewhere nicer. They can't just keep driving. We have the privilege to kind of keep driving. We find ourselves, oh, this is not a good place. We just keep driving as fast as we can get out of there. But real folks live there every day. So tonight we're learning about a ministry in Miami that works to help kids who live in neighborhoods like that. They're kind of like the Jericho Road neighborhoods of Miami. The missionary couple is named Jason and Angel Pittman, and they chose to live among the people they serve, even though it's in a neighborhood that we would not consider safe, that we would want to just keep driving through. And they run the ministry called Touching Miami with Love. or TML. You'll hear some kids in a video call it TML, Touching Miami with Love. And they have 2 sites in 2 different neighborhoods. One is in the Overtown neighborhood, and one is in the West Homestead neighborhood. So you'll hear some of the kids in the video say, oh, I'm at the TML West Homestead location, or the TML Overton site. And those 2 neighborhoods are the 2 poorest neighborhoods in the whole state of Florida. They're always overlooked, so the kids who grow up there and live there every day really suffer. One thing that the Pittmans do is something they call educational justice, because the kids are there of no fault of their own. They didn't decide to live there, they didn't decide to grow up there, but they are at a loss because they don't have the educational opportunities as kids from nicer neighborhoods do. So, Touching Miami with Love offers a lot of homework help, after school activities, sports camps, Bible camps, playtimes, and more. So let me show you a 4.5-minute video so you can get to know and hear from some of the kids whose lives have been changed from Touching Miami with Love, TML.
Touching Miami with Love, TML, was founded in partnership with the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, CBF of Florida, and 2 local Miami church congregations in 1995, holistically serving the Overtown and downtown Miami community. In January of 2015, Touching Miami with Love merged with our sister nonprofit, Open House Ministries, which was founded in 1993, also by CBF of Florida, and one of the same partner churches. Through these 2 sites, TML serves 2 of the most underserved, impoverished communities of Miami-Dade County, with over 400 children, youth, and adults actively engaged in TML's programs. They are truly touching Miami with Christ's love every day.
Hi, my name is Amanda Knight, and I've been at TML since I was 14. I started as a mission team member with my church in Jacksonville, Florida, Hendricks Avenue Baptist, and we would come every summer. TML was my favorite trip. I couldn't wait to be back in Miami every year. And eventually, I wanted to find a way to be in Miami. I knew God was calling me here, and so I started at Florida International University and became a student. During the summers, I would intern at summer camp at TML, and during the school year, kind of focus on studies and would volunteer during the year. And now I serve at the Overtown site as Spiritual Formation Director. And I love it because it's an opportunity for me to just talk about Jesus nonstop to amazing children and youth. And just giving them hope when some days seem such hard days, knowing that there's always hope in Christ. So that's what I do now. And I'm continuing the TML legacy by sharing that hope of Christ every day.
Hello, my name is Brittany. I am a graduate of the TML Youth Program. I started as a student here in the 5th grade. Currently, the program assistant at the Overtown site. TML has taught me numerous skills. Most importantly, I have improved my office skills. I am carrying the TML legacy by doing my part to keep the admin team running smoothly.
My name is Yandra. I attended TML for 3 years and I graduated from the youth program. I am now in college pursuing my criminal justice degree. I am carrying on the TML legacy as a TML youth children instructor. And I am helping my kids by becoming a respectable role model for them to follow behind.
My name is James. I attended TML for 13 years and graduated from the youth program. I am continuing the TML legacy as a TML children's instructor. I am helping my students by teaching them that life is more than what they see on TV in their communities, and that an education can open up the door for more and more things that they want and things that they never imagined that they'd ever do.
Hi, my name is Jose Rivota, and I graduated from the TML Youth Program. I'm currently on staff as a children's instructor and the maintenance personnel at the West Homestead site. I'm continuing the TML legacy by spreading the love through sports and fitness and inspiring each student to become better than who they were the day before. My name is Giovanni Alvarado, and I graduated from the TML Youth Program. I'm currently on staff as a children's instructor and IT specialist at the West Homestead site. I'm continuing the TML legacy by being a positive role model to the children I work with daily.
My name is Malachi. I'm a graduate of the TML Youth Program. I'm currently a children's instructor at the Old Town site, and I'm pursuing my degree at a local university. I'm continuing the TML legacy by building strong relationships with the children and going above and beyond any opportunity I get.
Hi, my name is Martin Villa, and I'm currently located at Touching Mountain with Love, West Homestead site. I've been here since 2nd grade and graduated from this program. I'm currently the spiritual formation director, and I'm enjoying my time here. One of the things that I'll continue on the TML legacy is sharing the word of Christ to the children and spending time with them, building up relationships, and also getting to know the community, but also teaching them to go out there and be kind and considerate to the community and living like Christ.
All right, so really, really great work that they're doing. What stood out to you in hearing the reports from those kids? What'd you hear? What'd you think?
Relationships,
Ah, okay.
how they're building relationships with the kids and the community.
Oh, good. Relationships. Yeah. Yeah. That last, apparently. Many of the kids who started are now leaders and instructors. Yeah.
It seems to be that this ministry is very effective because of those individuals who want to continue that legacy and to be involved, and they can speak from personal experience of being in this program and the benefits of it as they touch the lives of others. So it's an effective ministry.
Yeah, and that's that's one thing that's so neat about the Pittmans moving there, running this ministry center in those neighborhoods, training and loving and supporting kids through relationships who then grow and then can keep training and supporting other kids. And it just keeps going. That's a cycle of love, and that's how you break cycles of violence and cycles of poverty, is cycles of love and support. Yeah. Yeah, Jen.
You know, and they don't seem at all afraid of working in that area with those people. And that's what I think sometimes prevents us from being good neighbors, is we have hang-ups and fears.
Yeah.
And perhaps not enough faith that the Lord will protect us.
Yeah.
When we venture out and get out of our comfort zones, which we must do if we're going to be good neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caring and sharing.
Yeah, if we're gonna be a neighbor like Jesus defines what being a neighbor means, then his answer of who's my neighbor is an answer of someone stepping out of their comfort zone. I mean, that was the answer he gave. And Jan, I'm glad you said that we have to work past our hang-ups and fears, because that really is what keeps us from being the neighbors Jesus wants us to be. And it's okay to confess those and to acknowledge them. It's better to acknowledge and confess and then receive God's grace that's infinite and amazing than it is to pretend like we don't have hang-ups or fears. Because we do. When we have been suspicious of someone who's out on a street corner, or we don't want those people getting any help or assistance because we don't know what they will do with it, or we want to make sure what we have only goes to those who deserve it, or that person, I don't want to roll down my window. That's our fear talking. That's the hang-ups that we have preventing us from being a Jesus kind of neighbor, and we've all got them. I mean, like Paul said, I'm the worst of sinners. I mean, we all have done that. And it's okay to acknowledge that and confess that sometimes the first fast thoughts that we have aren't the most Jesus of thoughts. And that's okay, because we might first jump to maybe some prejudice or some judgment or some fear. And that happens, that's kind of just our natural instincts, just being a little defensive, just to kind of say, whoa, just slow down, let's kind of check out, do some recon, is everything okay? It's okay to recognize that maybe our fastest thoughts might not be the most Jesus of thoughts. And then once we've acknowledged that, we can say, okay, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to think about this. I'm going to pray about this. I'm just going to breathe in God's Spirit and let the Spirit guide me. And so hear me when I say it's okay to acknowledge and confess that our hang-ups and fears is what prevents us from being the kinds of neighbors that Jesus wants us to be. None of us is perfect. We've all got a ways to go. And so part of discipleship, part of growing in our faith, is acknowledging the things that are holding us back and saying, I did that today. I confess that, Lord. I confess that today. And hopefully next time, God, take away my fears, take away my hang-ups. Let me step out like the Samaritan and do something that might seem risky or even sound crazy to somebody else. Yeah. Well, let me read this quick statistic and then kind of close with a final thought on Touching Miami with Love. So there are over 400 children who participate in all the many great programs that you heard about. Sports and homework and Bible camps and summers and spring break activities. Over 400 kids participate, but there's only so much space, there's only so many staff, and so many hours, and so much sports equipment. So there are also like 100 kids on waiting lists to participate in the programs, because you wouldn't want to let so many kids there that you don't have space, it's unsafe, you couldn't watch them, you couldn't protect them, you know what I mean? So they do a lot of work with a lot of kids, but there's still like 100 kids on the waiting lists. And Jason and Angel Pittman heard the news that a few years ago there was a tragic shooting in the Overtown neighborhood, and 2 boys lost their lives. One of them was only 10 years old, and he happened to get shot while he was just playing in his front yard during spring break from his school. And he was on the waiting list to be a part of Touching Miami with Love's spring break Bible camp program. And if he had been a part of those all day, every day spring break programs, he wouldn't have been outside in his yard when that shooting happened. If they had had enough space for everyone, they would have taken everyone who wanted to come, and the boy would not have been where the guns were fired. When I read that story, that hit me pretty hard. And I can't imagine how heartbreaking it must have been for the Pittmans to find out that news. Because they're trying really hard. They're working really hard. All the kids who are now on staff at Touching Miami with Love are working really hard, trying to help kids who aren't just traveling on a Jericho road for a day. They live there every day, all day. And there are areas, neighborhoods like that in our county. There are streets that we would think we wouldn't want to get stuck in at night, or alone, or have our car break down in. Not just in Asheville, but in many towns in our area. So that's our final challenge question as we've learned about these missionaries. How can we let Touching Miami with Love inspire us to do something? So what do you think? As we've learned about the place and the work that the Pittmans and Touching Miami with Love does, how can we let their work inspire us? What do you think?
To me, it would inspire me to look for the opportunity here at home that would allow me to touch the lives of young people who do have it here. So, what opportunity is there that I could take advantage of?
Yeah.
That I could be involved in on a personal level. So, I may not be in Miami, but I'm here, and I can do something here.
Yeah.
To me, that speaks that way to me in a lot of ways.
I'm glad you said that, Wayne, because the Pittmans didn't start Touching Miami with Love. They moved there to run it something like 4 years or so after it was started. So they were on the lookout for where can we go, what can we do? And they learned, oh, in these really hard hit neighborhoods, there's some good work going on. How can we go help? Yeah, so they didn't start from nothing. Some good ministries do, but I don't think we have to start from nothing, nor should we, because there's already other work that's good that's going on in our area, and we can learn about it and say, hey, how can we help, neighbor?
We have 2 schools on our street. What could these, no, the church just isn't about us coming and studying the history of the Bible, and we need to take these lessons and superimpose them over our lives and mimic that behavior. Christ Church was not in a building where you just went for study, it was in the community. So, what can we do to be the church Christ wants us to do for these children and the families of these children that are on our street? I mean, talk about neighborhood. This is elbow kind of stuff. Move your elbows, and you don't have to be online to link. Even our neighbors can be away, but what can we do for the families of these children and for these children and their future lives?
Yeah.
Just across the street from my front door, literally.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and I'll bet that not every kid at those schools has a perfect life. And I'll bet that there are families in those schools that are having some real struggles that we certainly don't know about. Maybe nobody else knows about. Maybe they're struggling quietly. Maybe some families are having kind of physical needs struggles to maybe feed or have a secure home. Maybe some families are having emotional struggles or substance abuse struggles. Even if a family lives in a nice house, it doesn't mean that they don't have struggles, It just might mean that it's harder to notice, or they can hide it more. And so, like Sandra said, these sweet little kids are playing out on the school playground in the afternoon, and we can see them every school day. So, yeah.
What's it, how does song go? What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
That's right. Yes.
And it's not always material things we have to give them. but we just have to love them.
Yeah.
They're wanting that and needing that. We all need that. So,
Yeah, and that connects with a running theme that we've heard in a lot of these missionaries' work is just the one word support. It doesn't sound like much, but that, to know that you've got somebody in your corner who cares about you, loves you, that support, it doesn't mean a dollar amount. It doesn't necessarily mean a specific amount of time or donations of stuff. It just means whatever. It means whatever you need, whenever you're struggling, you've got somebody in your corner that's there for you. Yeah. And how awesome would it be if every kid on that playground at those schools, if they knew that this church was in their corner and that every family knew they've got a supporting church that is there for them whenever they might need it, if and when they've got a church in their corner. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Sure.
Yeah.
As piggybacking on what Wayne said, it doesn't have to be there's hungry, there's drug abuse, domestic violence. Kids don't have grandparents like I did that had time to do things before you were at home. There may be kids that could be better math students, better readers. I know in Kids for Christ, we did that. Maybe we need to go to them rather than asking them to come to us.
Yeah.
But just to have an adult that would sit at their elbow and listen to them read and talk to them and listen to them.
Yeah.
X number of times a week or a month. I mean,
Yes.
what would that mean to that child?
Yes. Especially like you mentioned, they might be families who've moved here and they don't have grandparents around at all. When we were having our boys, we didn't have our parents close by, and it was hard. It was really hard just to get through and raise babies. Yeah, absolutely.
And as Brad said, relationships. Just talking to these kids, listening to these kids in a reading session or whatever.
Yeah. And for those kids to know that we're just here for them, the long haul, as support, and we need to remind ourselves there are immense blessings that come from that might not be seen even for years later. Even not even in this physical life might we know what the blessings are. But nothing you do for children is ever wasted. And so showing that love, showing that support is going to reap huge blessings in their lives and in ours as well. So take that with you this week, be inspired. We don't have to start an official program, but what if just our kind of guiding idea was TWL, touching Weaverville with love. And whatever that might mean, it's not going to mean the same things as the kids in Miami need and what it looks like, but what would it look like here? So if you think about this week as you go and as you look around and try to be good neighbors at all times. It's a tough job, so we little by little, step by step. Well, go in peace to love and serve the Lord, and I'll see you next week.